Hi everybody, JJ here with Experiences My Dog, and today we're going to be taking a closer look at Tiki Dog's Petites. This is going to be, I think, a really interesting option for those of you that are out there that are looking for a canned dog food that is not only single ingredient, which is great, especially if dogs have sensitivities or have allergies to different types of proteins. It's a grain-free based option. It's got a good mix of also adding in some, I'd say, non-traditional and more kind of superfood oriented ingredients into its actual overall ingredient mixture. So whether you've got a dog that's going to be on the smaller breed side of the fence, whether you've got a dog that's maybe a senior and looking for a softer, kind of smoother texture to be able to go ahead and allow them an easier way to be able to eat the food, or you're maybe just looking for a fun way to be able to go ahead and add a little bit of variety to, let's say, your normal sized dog through kind of like a treat or topper or stuffing it with different things, I think you'll have a lot of interest in maybe checking this out. So let's go ahead and find out a little bit more about this Tiki Dog Petites. So diving into it a little bit more, in terms of these Tiki Dogs Petites, first and foremost, you get a variety pack. So you're gonna have 12 cans in a box. Now, when we talk about the variety in terms of the proteins, you're gonna have beef, you're gonna have duck, and you're also going to have lamb. That's actually a really nice mix. The other thing that I'm actually a big fan of here is that you don't have chicken by default. While chicken can be a good quality protein source, I would say that it actually is going to probably have the highest variability in terms of sensitivities for certain types of dogs. And it also has, I think, more challenges in terms of its sourcing and production. And it actually has a much higher omega-3 to omega-6 imbalance, where you have actually a lot more omega-6s. And this can actually cause issues over time if you're exclusively feeding chicken to your dog. So I think in terms of a primary, let's say, protein mix that you have available to you, these are three very solid options. The other thing that I really like here is that they're all single protein ingredients. So that means that you're only going to have beef, you're only going to have duck, and you're only going to have lamb. Now they're all going to contain broth as well. So here you're going to have beef broth. For the duck, you don't have duck broth, it's a chicken broth. And then for the lamb, you're also going to have a lamb broth. Now, another thing that I really like about these is going to be that they all include an organ meat. This isn't something you see in, let's say, all types of canned dog foods, and something that I'd say you'd see in more premium types of kibble, and definitely, of course, once you shift over to freshly cooked based dog foods or raw based dog foods, where you're really getting a much better class of nutrition and ingredient composition, you see that prevalent here. And so that, again, I'm a fan of. So you get beef liver, you get chicken liver in the duck, and then you also get lamb liver. So that's a really nice mix there in terms of giving you a primary protein and then an organ meat within all of these. And then you get rounded out with some really nice ingredient compositions here that help to improve, like I said, other aspects of nutritional density for your dog, especially if you're feeding your dog a leaner diet and you're not necessarily adding a lot of stuff. You really don't want to make sure that you have essentially these type of ingredients that are mixed in. So some examples is you're going to get sweet potatoes, you're going to get carrots, you're going to get spinach, you're going to get kale. Depending on the mix, they're all going to contain some of these items. And so these are really nice, solid items that help to promote additional, like I said, vitamins and minerals, and overall really just help to improve the ingredient quality. You don't really have to worry about any types of, I think, weird fillers. So you don't have things like flours or starches or artificial protein sources that are introduced. These are all really nice and positive. And you're going to really see this actually when you take a closer look and you unpack this. It's going to actually seem much fresher and much more like, almost like you prepped these items yourself, as compared to a lot of kind of, I'd say, more pate type of dog foods, where it's almost really hard to kind of really tell what it is. It really just looks like it's been blended all up here. Here you can actually kind of individually see some of those items. You can see carrots, you can see the protein sources a little bit more clearly, and they all actually, I think, have a higher level of palatability to them because of also the broth that's present there, which is also nice for additional hydration factor when it's fed to your dog. But when we take a look, like I said, at the mix in terms of the proteins, we take a look at the ingredient composition, some solid options that we have here from Tiki Dogs in the variety pack. Okay, so before moving on, there are a couple of last points that we do want to go ahead and note on in terms of these ingredients and some of the sourcing and production aspects for this Tiki Dogs Pate variety pack. One, you're talking about a grain-free based option, so you don't have to worry about having any type of corn, potatoes, any type of rice inside these mixtures. Again, well, not necessarily that those are negatives, but they can sometimes be a little bit more kind of filler-based items that sometimes can be introduced into dog foods. I generally prefer to see, I'd say, better quality secondary ingredients, and then, like I said, organ meats and primary animal proteins as the first items, which is what we do see here. In terms of course, sourcing, confirmation, and production, Tiki Dogs does try to get the majority, of course, of their protein sources as well as their other ingredients from the U.S. when possible. They also don't utilize any type of 4D based meat, which is fantastic because, of course, we don't want any type of dead, disease, dying, drug types of animal proteins that are utilized in the production of course, your dog food. And then I think also one other nice thing here that we see when correctly balanced, I'm not necessarily always the biggest fan of using sunflower oil. Sunflower oil can be beneficial sometimes in terms of stimulating aspects in terms of your dog's skin and coat health. And it is mixed in here, which is a nice supplement that's present here. Of course, you don't want to have too much of it because it can create an omega-6 imbalance the same way that we talked about with chicken. But overall, this along with the other ingredient mix that we have here, like I said, overall give you a good foundation to, I think, give your dog an overall good balance of the kind of the vitamins and the minerals that they need to be able to go ahead and have a healthy foundation for their diet. So moving on from the ingredients, of course, let's talk a little bit more about the cans themselves for canned dog food. Now, of course, with the canned dog food, the big benefit, I think, is going to be simplicity. It's very simple, similar to kibble, where you don't have to worry about kind of preparing anything. You literally are just kind of taking this out, popping the top off, and then putting this into your dog's bowl. And as long as you're keeping this in a good temperature-based environment area where it's not exposed to a high amount of heat or direct sunlight or anything like that, it's probably one of the simplest options. And it also carries, like I said, the benefit of having a lot of integrated moisture, which especially for dogs that aren't, I'd say, as sensible as they should be or don't have kind of the habit of getting a lot of fresh drinking water, which is something your dogs should have. I think that is a benefit that you can have with some type of canned dog food. Also, I'd say in terms of palatability, some dogs I think really enjoy kind of that wetter, smoother texture and the more kind of aromatic based aspect that you have with canned dog foods, especially utilizing broth like you do have here with the Tiki Pets. Now, each one of these cans is going to be 3 ounces that you're going to have. They are, of course, in a metal-based can, but one of the things that I really liked actually is that the internal liner material that this utilizes is actually a specialized resin. So that actually helps to make sure that you're not getting any type of cross-contamination between the actual metal itself and the actual food, and it also makes the process of cleaning this really, really simple, so that when you essentially rinse these out and you put these into, you know, your recycle bin, it's a very straightforward process. And for those of you who might be concerned, some of you might not always be aware of that certain liner material can sometimes actually have BPA, which is kind of the same thing that we wouldn't want to have, let's say, in like say a drinking bottle or things along those lines. And so these are BPA free, so you don't have to be concerned about that. In terms of the kind of the overall hands-on experience, it was very straightforward, very easy to go ahead and pop off this top, very smooth. I can tell you that with every single one of these, they smelled fresh, they smelled clean. I didn't kind of have anything off or weird when I opened these up, so that was definitely a positive note. Now, in terms of the overall kind of consistency and experience, they're going to be pretty similar in terms of most of them. I'll say though that in terms of kind of the overall moisture content, the moisture content is going to be highest here in the duck version, so expect this to kind of be a little bit more watery. So depending on kind of how you're pouring it or serving it, you just might want to be aware that this one's going to be a little bit more liquidy, a little bit kind of more loose, but you still definitely feel you get a good amount of that protein that's present within there, where I'd say with the beef and the lamb, they're a little bit kind of more chunky, and you don't necessarily see as much kind of moisture within that when you open each one of these. And when you go about serving the actual pate from the cans themselves, you'll find that the actual consistency is really smooth. It's really nice, and there's nothing that's really going to be difficult for your dog to eat. So again, like I said, especially for dogs that have very small mouths, especially like I said, if you have a smaller breed type dog, or you've got a senior dog where essentially their teeth are worn down, or maybe they don't have as many teeth, any of those type of challenging kind of situations, this is really, really great. The other thing I like I said, for I think bigger dogs, is that the pate consistency allows us to be really flexible in terms of what you want to do with it. You have a lot of flexibility in terms of you can put this on, let's say, like a licking mat, let's say like a kind of slow feeder situation, or to be able to kind of reward, treat, or engage with your dog. It can also be easily mixed in with other items, and so this is really great if you're looking to be able to stuff things, like maybe you want to be able to go ahead and have kind of like a stuffed Kong. So you want to kind of reward your dog, kind of freeze that item, give that to your dog, or you can stuff it in different types of chews. An example might be kind of stuffing it and making quote unquote dog cannolis with things like tracheas, where you can go ahead and get together some of the pate, some yogurt, some honey, you know, different kind of mixed ingredients. You can kind of spice things up in terms of what you're looking for. You've got a really good foundation in terms of the ingredients that are present here already, and it makes it really easy in terms of kind of, like I said, how you can smear things out. Another nice thing that you can also do if you kind of want to just supplement what your dog might be eating already, outside of using this, like I said, like a treat or a topper, You could also actually mold these, and you could mold them into kind of little nice pieces that you could reward your dog with, and either add that onto your dog's primary food that you're going to be feeding them. If, let's say, like I said, you've got a bigger dog and you just kind of want to be able to give them a secondary treat, or, you know, we're still definitely pretty warm here, and it's probably going to still be pretty warm, you know, for the next kind of month and a half, maybe 2 months or so. And so it's a nice kind of little cool down treat that you can have for your dog, where you can give them something that's actually got some nice nutritional density to it, but it's a little cool down treat that you can have by freezing them into mold. So the smoothness and the consistency, I think overall, is a big benefit in terms of how you can introduce it and how you can work with it when you're feeding your dog or rewarding your dog. So moving into, I think, for a part for me that I always find, of course, the most rewarding, the most fun, is going to be the taste test. So all 3 of the pups, they actually passed it, flying colors. They all really loved it. They were all really engaged and focused. They wanted to try it out. They ate it up, no problems. I didn't see any type of hesitation. You know, probably always the biggest benchmark, I think, for a little bit more of a varied type of food, or something that might be a little bit different, is going to be Ultron. Ultron tends to be our pickiest dog in terms that there are some foods, even if they're nice, sometimes he just won't want to eat it. And so here he was definitely receptive to this. So I think that overall, again, the ingredient composition, the texture, those different elements, if you've got maybe a pickier dog, it's a nice option to be able to try to introduce to them and see if that they're engaged with it. They also, I think, all enjoyed and appreciated, like I said, a little bit more kind of treat and chew based variations that we introduced. I did a couple of different options. I did some molding, where I molded them into small little pieces where we were able to give them as kind of like a little cool down treat. I also did, like I said, the stuffed tracheas as a kind of these little dog cannolis, and they enjoyed those as well. So overall, taste tests were definitely positive, and all dogs enjoyed all of them, and I didn't see any type of issues with them after the fact. Okay, so wrapping things up, there's one other important thing I did want to touch on that is something that's not necessarily always talked about, or it's sometimes overlooked at when you talk about ingredient analysis, before I kind of give you my final conclusions here. And that's going to be that actually the Tiki Dog, I think, also gets a little bit of credit here for actually passing what is called the SALT test. Some people don't realize that when you're taking a look at the ingredient list, you actually want to check that the ingredients of note, especially I'd say kind of tertiary ingredients, so anything that's kind of after those first 2 ingredients, is positioned in front of salt. So if there is salt that's present, and by essentially law, there's a requirement that essentially that item, salt can't exceed 1%. And so what essentially that means is that if something is present after salt, it means that it's less than 1% of the overall ingredient that you're going to have within the actual canned dog food. And so the reason why that's important is, let's say if you're adding something like that sweet potato, you're adding the kale, or you're adding carrots, you have these other nice things that you're adding in there which you think are going to be valuable to your dog in terms of their diet. You don't want to see that after the salt. And so we don't see that in any one of these ingredient compositions. And so again, I think especially for a smaller breed dog, or senior dogs, where you're trying to maximize the overall ingredient mixture, that's a good practice that Tiki Dog has gone ahead and done for this variety pack here of the pate. So overall, you know, some closing thoughts here. While this isn't a full comprehensive review like we normally do for, I'd say, our entire reviews, we tried to take a look at a few of the different aspects and things in terms of the ingredients, the taste test, the sourcing. We did follow up with Tiki Pets, and they were responsive and positive in terms of engaging with us, getting questions answered about sourcing, production, like I said, the liner material being BPA free and things along those lines. Now, in terms of availability, you can find actually Tiki Dog right now generally at Petco. It's pretty common that you'll see them there. You're also now going to have availability on Amazon, so they just started skewing in a lot of their products there, so you can head over to Amazon and check it out. Now, the cost that you're going to get for this is going to be a little bit over $15, about $15.50 for the actual pack, which again, I think targeted towards smaller breed dogs in terms of the amount that you would feed to a dog. Smaller breed generally being between, you know, let's say a little over 5 pounds to maybe about max about 15 pounds. You know, one of these approximately, or maybe a can and a half, is about what you would want to give for about 5 pounds is their recommendation. That's, I think, a pretty reasonable cost that you're going to have associated with it. And definitely if you use this, like I said, as kind of like a treat or topper or kind of stuffing agent, I think it's a very reasonable cost that you're going to have, especially when you talk about the overall quality that you're going to have in relation to this. So overall, I think definitely check it out if you're looking for a new type of dog food, maybe for, like I said, like a senior dog, a small breed dog, or like I said, you're looking to be able to have a little bit more flexibility in what you do with your dog in terms of a treat, reward, topper, or kind of stuffer for their food. I think this variety pack pate, the petite Petites from Tiki Dog is a good choice. So hopefully you found this quick kind of hands-on and a little bit of an experiential review here for the actual dog food interesting and useful. If you got any questions, comments, concerns, feedback, feel free to go ahead and drop them into the comments section down below. As always, that is appreciated, and I'll try to follow up with you if I can, if I see those questions or comments. If you're wondering about any other information about the actual Tiki Dogs food or the product line or whatever, you'll find links in the description below as well. And like I said, when you're down there, if you can go ahead and hit the like button, share this out, and go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We're just about now getting ready to hit 250 subscribers, and that's absolutely fantastic. So thank you guys. So as always, take care, take it easy, enjoy the rest of your day, and don't forget to give your dog a treat from us.